Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Well Versed. I'm your host, Jazzy Cho, and today we will be learning with Sidney Zhang, the co-founder and CTO of Magic Eden. Currently, I hear Magic Eden is the top NFT marketplace on Solana, starting in blockchain, moving into big tech, and now back in the Web3 industry. Let's talk to Sidney about his career story and the insight he's gained while building out Magic Eden. Sidney Zhang, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Yeah, doing great. I mean, it's a crazy day in crypto. Oh, most days are crazy, but this today is especially so. But otherwise everything's good.
And amidst your busy schedule, how do you make sure you take care of your health?
I don't think I do a very good job of that. But I think I'm probably gonna get class pass. Like I'm not someone that can go to the gym and find that interesting. But I used to use class pass and it's really fun. So free advertising for class pass, send me a coupon. We used to do classes with Jack. We stopped that for a few months building Magic Eden. This month, I'm committed to start exercising again.
So, how did you begin your career? What was your first job?
Well, I had a couple of internships and some full-time offers after college. And then I basically took a gap year. The gap year was 2013. Came over to the US and worked for some startups in San Francisco. Always just really thought that I wanted to start a company. And that was, around the time where, I mean, program articles and essays are still popular today, but at that time I was reading it like the Bible. I was just really dead set on starting a company. And then we started Hello Block, which was the first crypto company we started. Raised a little bit of money, eventually spent all of it and ran out of money. And that was kind of like, from 2013, 2015.
Yeah, so you were super early in the space, like even before Gavin Wood coined the term Web3 back in 2014. 2013, you were already there, you were building your crypto company. Can you share with us some memorable stories during the time you were building out Hello Block and the greatest lessons you learned from it?
Yeah, for sure. Like when we started doing crypto in 2013, basically the only crypto company that was working was like centralized exchanges. I think by 2013, it was already getting kind of difficult, because regulations was basically coming at that point. I think like if you did it in 2011, 2012, even maybe you could have just like started your own bank account and just like build an exchange. At the same time, I really wasn't that interested in like financial use cases. I was really interested in like consumer use cases, which was definitely the wrong thing to build. One lesson there is like, being early and right is not different from being wrong altogether. We built a number of like consumer applications, like build like the first Twitter Bitcoin bot that was like sending money, sending people Bitcoin on Twitter. I remember it was like people just love using the bot to send Will and Shatner money. We also built the first Bitcoin Chrome extension wallet. The experience is actually very similar to how Chrome extension wallets today feels like, with the exception that at that time I was like, man, like this will never get big. This is always gonna be a toy. Eventually, we kind of dropped the wallet project. It was definitely ahead of our time. We then thought, oh, like instead of building a consumer company, which was really difficult to make it work, it's like, oh, let's build a developer API that services other consumer companies. But as it turns out, if your customer is companies that are building for consumer and they can't make it work, then you end up with customers that can't pay you. So definitely a lot of lessons there. I remember in 2015, I ran out of money, had to borrow money from my girlfriend. Luckily now she's my wife. I was living on a boat in Alameda Island, Alameda Marina, because I just ran out of money. It's kind of funny that the owner of the boat now works at Magic Eden also.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, it was like a small sailboat. I was there for a little bit. It was definitely very cold to live on the boat, and so I was like, oh my god, like screw crypto, I can't do this anymore. Yeah, and then I went to Uber, and that was kind of like my first crypto journey. But I think a really important lesson is like, there's an article by Fred Ursin, the co-founder of Coinbase and the CEO of Paradigm, the fund, and they are lead investor in our Series A. It's really important to just remember that crypto cycles can be very emotional. It's important that to kind of put yourself in the right space, both like mentally, financially, to not be affected by the the craziness.
Wow, yeah. And even currently we're witnessing what people are calling, the crypto winter. It's pretty crazy and like almost frightening how quickly things turn around. And what is your advice as a almost like as a veteran in this space for those who are just starting out and experiencing all this for the first time?
Yeah, it's like been multiple cycles at this point. And Joshan was building, he was employee number two at DYDX. And so he was building through the entire crypto winter as well. And so Joshan is our CEO, one of the, our co-founder. In some ways, I think the important thing is to put yourself in the right kind of financial space so that you're like you don't have problem putting food on the table, which was the problem I had at that time. I didn't have money to pay rent, and that's number one. And then I think probably so that you're not like as worried about like the day-to-day volatility, right? And so even like imagine today, for example, we're always like very bear market ready. Unlike other companies, right, we pay close attention to our P&L. Many other Silicon Valley companies, they just go and they start burning money. Always make sure that we are free cash flow positive. So that's kind of like one thing, right? Like which is like the positioning as a company. And I think the other thing just mentally, just take it in good stride, like don't get affected too much by the day to day.
After your initial experience building in blockchain, you decided to grow your career in big tech at Uber and Facebook, now Meta. Tell us about that time in your career.
Yeah, so after crypto winter was really tough. I went and joined Ubereats. Ubereats was nothing at the time, actually. Like it was like literally on the whiteboard. It's like, oh, let's also do food. That's kind of like how we started Ubereats. At that time, it was called Project Agora. It was actually quite exciting to kind of build a marketplace from scratch. I was at Ubereats for a number of years, focusing on a lot of marketplace machine learning initiatives, like ranking, recommendations, a lot of discovery features. After that, I was at ATG. I don't know if you heard of ATG. It's called the Advanced Technologies Group within Uber. And that group was very focused on self-driving. So I was a research manager there. And then after that, I went to the Facebook, and then later they changed it into Meta. I was in the AI group there. I'll definitely say that like about 6 years at Uber and probably spent too much time in big tech for sure. But I learned a lot of lessons there. I think in terms of just like core technical skills and just like generally saw a lot. Seeing kind of how to grow a marketplace from whiteboard into like a massive business was fascinating as well. And I think a lot of it, I take a lot of lessons from those days into like building Magic Eden as well.
And now you're back in blockchain, better than ever, as the co-founder of Magic Eden, the top NFT marketplace in Solana. The team has been on a roll with some really impressive stats. Can you go over some of Magic Eden's milestones with us?
Yeah, so I think we were a number of things. Like we just raised a Series A. That was announced a while ago. We raised $27 million. Hit our first $100 million of trading within the first 30 days of starting Magic Eden. And I think some of it is luck, right? Like we just kind of right place, right time. And a lot of it is just, I think the founding team's really strong, and we also brought in really strong people at the beginning. We were the fastest to reach $1 billion in trading volume. Actually, I need to check to see how many full-time employees we have right now. Between 80 to 100 employees today. So even though it's 8 months old, it's also probably larger than most people would expect.
Dang, yeah, the success and the rapid growth of the company is amazing to see. Magic Eden, how did you and your team come up with that name?
Yeah, so I think a lot of things in Magic kind of happen like really quickly. The name is one of them. So the first name that we came up with was Petabay.
Petabay?
Yeah, it's a terrible name. Peta, meaning next number after giga. Giga, peta, because peta is like digital, right? And then bay is like, oh, like this is the harbor of where digital things are happening.
Oh, Bay. I
And
thought you meant like Bay, as in like my Bay.
no, not BA,
Oh, okay, okay. Okay.
BAY, yeah. And it's a terrible name. Everybody hated, like, we really got into it within the team, and then we started telling other people, and they're like, they were having the same reaction as you. It's like, what? And not only were they saying that some people would mispronounce it into pedal bay, like pedal file, I was like, this is like no go.
Mm.
And then Jack, credit to Jack. Jack has been really good at like coming up with names. So Jack used a startup name generator. The startup name generator came up with Magic Dan, like DAN. But Jack misread it. He misread it as Magic Eden. And he's Magic Eden sounds good. Okay. And the rest is history. I would say that we didn't put much thought into it because we really wanted to focus on product market fit and first and foremost. So we focused most on the business. It turned out to be a really great name because Magic and Eden, both words kind of work everywhere. So you can see like Eden Games, Eden Stats, right? For our DAO, it's called Magic DAO. Our users are called magicians.
Yeah, it's super versatile. You can utilize it in like so many different ways. Why did the team choose to build Magic Eden on Solana?
So Jack was working at FTX at the time, and obviously they had a lot of like Solana maxi at FTX. They love Solana. We fundamentally believe that the future of digital experiences and digital asset ownership will happen somewhere where the throughput is high, the speed is fast, and the cost is low. Quickly, we ruled out doing something on like a more traditional chain like ETH. Beyond that, at that time, Solana already had like a nascent kind of community. And it was really obvious to us that like the first initial use case for NFT is community. We did a survey of the different chains, and Solana just had a very strong, very almost fanatical community about it. And we thought, yeah, that's the right place to start.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed as I'm learning more about this industry is that it moves so fast with so many new projects springing up. What do you think has led to Magic Eden's rapid success?
I'll give you kind of like the high level. A strong founding team, ability to deliver like polished, delightful user experiences. Obviously, accessibility of the chain itself and the community first mentality. Out of the founding team, Jack was product manager at Google, building consumer products, and he was at FTX. And so he was like very crypto native, but also had a very good consumer sense. Joshen, our COO, who was at Coinbase, and then he was employee number 2 at DYDX. Me and Rex, we're both like, very early engineers at Uber, and so I think we had the right mix of people. I don't know if you follow like earlier days of like crypto apps. They don't feel like the internet experiences that everyday users are used to.
Right.
I think our ability to deliver that experience in Solana in particular, marrying like our consumer internet background as well as like the fact that we spend a lot of time building marketplaces, and there's some nuances to marketplace, right? Like marketplace dynamics, like is this a supply constrained marketplace, is it a demand constrained marketplace? Like I think instead of like floundering, we kind of just knew what to do. We did it, and it worked the first time, and it allowed us to like really blitz into the market. I think it's lucky that we built on Solana because it is very accessible. It's fast, it's cheap, very consumer friendly, blockchain, and so it kind of married well with that consumer experience. And lastly, I think this company is very, very community first. We are really willing to invite our users into like key decisions. We are very transparent with what our users. We generally like also just like interact a lot with our users, right? Like our users feel like they will listen to them. We're like serving them. NFT is about community, and we are kind of almost like a meta community for all the different communities, right? We are the home of your community too, and making users feel that way is really important.
For like the gaming NFT aspect, you can buy the NFT and then right away you can like play the game too, right? It's like a very easy user experience.
So we were the first to embed games into a marketplace so that like users can discover and like experience the game just right on the page. On Solana, Eden Games is like 90+% of gaming related NFT transactions are on Eden Games. It's probably the largest like gaming focused NFT marketplace in the world.
What does a typical day as a CTO of Magic Eden look like?
My time pool is split between like maybe 20-30% on recruiting, maybe 30-40% just like running the team, getting projects going, and then maybe 20% on like questions of strategy. What should we do? What should we invest in? What should we not invest in? I think in a lot of ways, what not to do as a question is probably more important than what to do. It happens a lot of startups, right? When the company is doing well, the space of opportunity is very large. There's a lot of things that you could do. Being ruthless and cutting things out that we should not spend time on is probably more important than what you spend time on.
So what do you look for when building out the right dev team?
The most important thing that we we look for first and foremost is culture fit. I've been a hiring manager in big tech for a long time. In terms of technical maturity, in terms of technical skills, in terms of like someone's potential for growth, I generally have a good sense of what we're looking for. I think the thing that's very unique about Magic Eden is that we really operate like a sports team in the sense of like there's a strong sense of camaraderie in Magic Eden, but the team is also very focused on winning. One of our culture values is a champion's mindset, and what that really means is that like we are always like very aggressive at shipping, and if you ask the community, they will tell you that Magic Eden always ships and ships really fast. We respond really quickly to the market, which is really important for crypto because the market changes really quickly too. We look for like people with like a strong sense of customer obsession. Like they think a lot about like the user and like how to deliver for the user, which actually surprisingly it's very rare in big tech. And lastly, we generally have hired a lot of people that's very interested in crypto. Certainly hire a lot of people that don't know crypto as much and they're just crypto curious, but we definitely put them through we call it crypto brainwashing camp, where we give them some coins, they will go and buy some NFT and start to feel it, feel what it's like to be in this space. And now on the technical side, I think that's all very, generic. We generally look for heart over experience. Heart and talent, raw talent, trump experience at Magic Eden, because I think experience you can develop quickly, but heart is rare, very, very rare.
Like when they first interview and you're hiring, how do you see the heart through these candidates?
For many candidates, we have a process, so we'll do a part-time project with them. How someone responds to something difficult is very telling of their heart, like some people kind of throw their hands up, say, oh, like I need help, right? And some people like find a way to make it work. And Magic is full of people that one way or another they will find a way to make it work.
You brought up an interesting point about how big tech doesn't really focus on the customer. Can you dive into that a little deeper?
Absolutely. I think that just to illustrate like a story from Uber, right? And this happens constantly. This happens a lot at Google too. Maybe the CEO would say, I want to, deliver a certain experience for the user. And maybe eventually it will get split up into 3 different VP of engineering. There's VP of infra, VP of a front-end team, and VP of like back-end, or maybe one VP's initiative split between like 3 different director of engineering. They will do their OKR.
What is
In
OKR?
theory, OKR is objective and key results, basically like what you're supposed to deliver. And it's always like, in theory, if all 3 of these organizations deliver what they're supposed to deliver, the user will get the feature. With the exception that all the OKRs are set to the last day of the quarter, and they all deliver their part on the last day of the quarter. And then you'll finish the quarter, everybody's OKRs will be green, and then the user wouldn't get that feature. And then they'll be like, oh, next quarter is integration. And then everybody would deliver the integration on the last day of the quarter, and then the integration will be broken. And then, next thing you know, like everything that you want to do for the user might take 2 to 3 quarters to deliver, which is very, very common in big tech. One thing that we're different, and we are very inspired by earlier days of Facebook, like Facebook in 2010, Facebook in 2012, is that we form we call them squads. Actually, I learned this word from DoorDash. One of my mentors is the head of engineering at DoorDash, and if he's listening, I'll just say hi to Ryan. And they have this concept called like squads, where the squad itself is like end to end. Marketing's in it, the business analysts in it, the product managers in it, and they are supposed to. It's like a cross-functional team that's supposed to deliver an experience for the user, and ultimately one person owns that user outcome. If you then goal your team and the performance on the user getting the experience that the user needs to get, then people are very good at finding ways to deliver that to the user if people know that that's part of their performance review. Whereas in a lot of times in big tech, like if you look at the performance review rubric for engineering big tech, it's like, oh, like your architecture, scalability, cross-function, blah, blah, blah. And there's so much in there, the long checklist of what you need to do to get promoted, that often the user is the last thing that people think about. That's actually very, very common in big tech. Companies like Facebook is very user-centric. Some companies like TikTok, extremely user-centric, very aggressive at shipping. And then other companies like Uber, just like nothing ever happens. Takes forever to do anything.
What are some traits you had to develop as a leader of a company?
My management philosophy and principles I formed in big tech, because I was managing a team. One thing that is an important lesson here that's different from my past experience is like a lot of teams talk about autonomy. most companies talk about autonomy as a lip service because autonomy to me is not really about autonomy. Autonomy is the willingness for things to fuck up, for things to go wrong, and that you are principally and philosophically okay with that. And I think like how to develop a team and allowing people to be autonomous, but at the same time, there's a management bus sentence that I like. It's like trust but verify. How you do that and do that well in a company that's moving really fast and people just making decisions is something that, I'm kind of learning here. Our teams generally operate like very autonomously, the engineer and the designer and the product manager. So then at the individual level, if let's say, for example, you work on auctions, users are like, oh, like this doesn't make sense, what's going on? You can indeed respond to that well because that's kind of your world. You're the world expert on this feature. You think about the most, you talk to the customers. The ability to decentralize as a company is what allows us to be customer centric. The other thing that's probably a little bit different is like Magic Eden is probably growing a lot faster than what I'm used to. For sure. Like Ubereats grew really fast, but Magic Eden definitely growing faster than Ubereats, for sure, without a doubt. Just learning what it means to be part of a product that's evolving so quickly is something that I really had to dig deep and embrace because I would say every month I feel like I work at a different company. Joshin really liked the word sausage making. It's like, how do you get the team moving well while things are changing so quickly is something that we're learning a lot as well.
In terms of NFTs, what do you think of the current state of the NFT culture and how do you project it will play out within, let's say, the next year?
NFT and Solana itself have gone through like many kind of meta. It started out as like the PFP phase, and then like we went through a utility phase where like staking, like adding tokenomics to it, attaching the NFT to like an app and so on. And then now we kind of almost entering into the branding phase. A bunch of other celebrities also joined in as well. It's really about like building this brand. And I think that each phase of Meta kind of builds on top of the previous one. So like I think the community game itself is evolving really quickly. That's number one. Going forward, like we're very, very bullish on gaming. It's like a continual evolution to this. Gaming and digital asset sales today is already massive in Web2. This is just gonna like really take it to the next level as the crypto market matures.
Sydney, why are you passionate about building in Web3?
I got into crypto because I was like very libertarian. I was like, like no more money printing. That was kind of when I was in the younger years. But I think over time my relationship between me and crypto also evolved. The idea that you have a piece of asset and you own it, I think it's like something that it should happen in the world, right? That's number one. Number two is I think that technologically it's like endlessly fascinating. And then number three in particular in kind of building on top of the technological point, it's like being in crypto, you almost feel like that you can like live in today but also live in the future at the same time. Kind of imagining like how this will evolve into the future and being a part of that is, I would say, truly very privileged on the front row seat of this time machine into the future.
And Sydney, what does success mean to you?
To me, I think success is like building something that a lot of people use. I think that ultimately is what it means to be a builder. Like building something that people love.
And you are doing that with Magic Eden.
Second time, going a lot better than the first time. Never built a lot of stuff in the first time that people did not love at all. So.
And I'm going to assume that you're back in blockchain, after you've gone through the cycles, that you truly believe in it. And and it's worth, going through this mental strife.
Yeah, for sure. I think it is really exciting. When NFT started to take off, it was definitely different from how I imagined it would. Like back in the day, I remember we were doing stuff like hashing an image and then like putting it in the blockchain because Bitcoin does have like some instructions that allow you to put data into it. We also built this thing called like the love block, was like writing love letters on blockchain because like diamonds are bullshit, but the love is like the blockchain is forever. All of this were terrible, like really bad ideas. In the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, I really do believe that like we are about to cross the chasm from mainstream awareness to mainstream usage with NFT. as a builder, like being able to be a part of that, it really is a privilege. And if you get the opportunity and you don't take advantage of the privilege, I think I'll kick myself forever.
Yeah, no regrets.
No
And I
regret.
really love how you refer to building in this space as a privilege. I think it really shows with the product you're producing and with how you're approaching your community.
Having a community of users that like what you build it's a privilege, and we should always remember that.
Yeah, I think that's very important. People in the community right now should carry with them as they build out these projects too. So thank you so much, Sidney, for your time, and congratulations to Magic Eden with all the successes. I'm really looking forward to everything else you guys are going to build out.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time today. Have a good one. All right.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Well Versed. If you enjoyed learning with me today, please make sure to like and subscribe. Have a blessed day and see you in the next one.